Well, in the meantime, today is your last chance to grow a green thumb of your own at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival, where there are more than 100 sessions where you can learn from the best in the plant biz. Fox 13's Nikki Torres is there now with a look at what you can expect. What's going on, Nikki?
Taylor, good morning. Abby's been talking a lot about these atmospheric rivers and how much rainfall we're expecting. Here's a perfect rainy day activity that you can do. And by the way, you don't have to have a green thumb. Maybe you want to learn a little bit more. Maybe you want to see different plants. This is an opportunity to do it here at the festival. This morning we were joined with David. You're a naturalist, and also we're going to talk about pollinators. So off the top, what is that?
Yeah, so pollinators are all sorts of different kinds of wildlife that visit flowers to drink nectar and maybe gather some pollen. But in doing so, they move the pollen, and the pollen is what allows the flowers to get fertilized so that the plants can actually reproduce and make seeds so they can procreate. And those seeds are often packaged in, nutritious little packets of berries and nuts and things like that. So pollinators are super, super important because our ecosystems would crash without them. Nothing would have anything to eat, including us. But the coolest thing about it is that they're a group of wildlife that we all can help by what we plant in our garden and how we maintain our gardens.
So they want to do their jobs as pollinators. How can we do our jobs to maybe help them out and help the ecosystem while we're at it?
Yeah, so two of the most common pollinators that you're going to see in your yard or your garden space are butterflies and moths and bees. So when it comes to helping them in your garden, you want to think about a couple of things. First and foremost, you want to think about what they eat. So I've already talked about the fact that these guys are going and drinking flower nectar. In the case of bees, they're gathering pollen to feed their babies. So how do you feed them? You fill your garden with beautiful blooming plants, specifically native plants. These are the plants that naturally grow in the area. They've co-evolved with the wildlife and the pollinators, so their kind of life cycles are in sync with each other. So if you fill your garden with pretty blooming native plants, you've done 99% of the work to actually help support your pollinators. The other big one is don't spray pesticides. These guys are insects for the most part. Again, butterflies, moths, bees. There's other insects that are pollinators. And when you spray insecticides, you kill all of those insects, the bad with the good. And even when you spray herbicides, oftentimes you're killing off the native plants that these insects need, in order to survive.
And I think what's interesting about this too is obviously you want to help the pollinators, but these are little changes that you can make to your daily routine when it comes to caring for your plants, caring for your garden and your lawn.
Absolutely.
Little changes that you can make, right?
The National Wildlife Federation, we've been sort of promoting this idea since 1973. We kind of launched the whole natural gardening movement here in the U.S. And that's exactly our message, is that this doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to rip out your entire yard. You don't have to become a naturalist like me in order to do this. There's so many great resources. In fact, we've got a booth here at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival that folks can come and get plant lists for the Seattle area of all the native plants that are going to be the best ones to help out the pollinators.
Well, the best thing about the festival as well is that you have all of these displays. You have maybe an example of something that we could do or something similar that we could do at home?
Yeah, so if folks come to the festival, you'll see all of these great examples. There's one thing in one of the displays here that's really neat. You basically make kind of like a teepee structure with wood, and you fill it with plant stems, old dead plant stems. And one of our messages with pollinator gardening is you don't want to throw away those old plant stems because a lot of our native bees actually nest in them. So you can leave them standing through the winter, and then once all the seeds are gone, once the birds have eaten the seeds through the winter, in about a month or so, you can cut those stems and leave them maybe 8 to 24 inches high, and then as the bees emerge, the solitary native bees, they don't form hives, they lay their eggs in those stems. But you can also, if you really want to have a little bit more of a tidy look, you can cut those stems down and build this little 3-stick teepee structure and fill it with all of those cut stems. It becomes a focal point, a little natural gardening focal point, but it also is great habitat for pollinators and lots of other insects too.
So David, we've been talking a lot this morning about how this festival is great for not only maybe experienced master gardeners, gardeners, but also for beginners and people who just want to inquire about different kinds of plants. So if somebody is so inclined or interested in learning about pollinators, really for you, what is step one? You know, to make it easy, if somebody who wants to help out, what is step one, step two, just the very basics?
So step one is to identify the native plants that are going to support pollinators. And again, there's lots of resources out there. I've got a book called Attracting Birds, Butterflies, and Other Backyard Wildlife that you can pick up here at the show. I have lists in there. The National Wildlife Federation also has tons of these lists. It varies from region to region. There's so many. But I would say here in the Seattle area, think about oak trees, think about wild cherries, think about willows. You don't think of woody plants and trees as pollinator plants, but they actually are. Our native bees love willow. There's so many of them that actually rely on the willow pollen in order to feed their babies. And the leaves of those three kinds of plants are actually caterpillar food. They're the host plants for literally hundreds of species of butterflies and moths. So think about those woody plants, and then if you want to plant like blooming perennials, things like sunflowers, native sunflowers, and goldenrods are some of the best. Again, they support both our native bees as a pollen source and our caterpillars of our butterflies and moths. So those are just a few examples, but there's literally dozens and dozens of really great pollinator plants that, again, maybe this spring you just commit to adding 2 or 3 new plants to your garden and build from there. So to your point, it doesn't have to be difficult. You can start very, very basic.
Thank you so much, David.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time. The festival is, as you can tell, already going this morning. It is the last day. Again, this is a great rainy day activity, whether you are a master gardener or a beginner, or you just want to look around. The displays here are beautiful. They put them up within 72 hours, which is already incredible. Come out. 6 p.m. is what time this is going until for this evening. So if you're looking for something to do, this is one of those options. Right now, live at the Convention Center, Nikki Torres, Fox 13 News. Let's come back to you in studio.